Welcome back with me to the channel Double Chin Doge, where today I'm going to carry on with these cards. A lot of these are basically the same idea, so I'm not going to talk about many of these too much, except for maybe Egghead. We'll get to that in a moment. In fact, I was thinking for a second about ending the video and just doing a couple more ideas, because I might not be able to, I might do all these a bit too quickly, but I think we've got enough. Besides, I don't have to go right fast. This first one, I feel it will be a really nice card. It's not going to be overpowered or anything. I don't expect it to be, at least. But this card could be used. Is a decent card for tempo, decent card for board control, and a decent card for synergy. If you were playing Boogaloo with Necromancer or Brainstorm with Science Synergy. So he's got a lot of uses, and in all those uses, he's not exactly overpowered. He's just kind of alright, which makes him a very flexible card. Unstable Zombmech. Crazy Rare Science Zombie. 3/3/2, Bullseye. When destroyed, deal 1 damage to all plants in the plant hero, which is Bullseye. You could give this Deadly with Infinity, but that's the only synergy you got there. The rest of this is and Stompodon, sorry, not Stompodon, Tankylosaurus Deadly is a decent deck. That isn't a crazy, like, overpowered deck, and so I don't think a deck with this would be overpowered either. I don't think it'd be bad. Of course, you could also use Shark as well. There are a lot of possibilities to make this good, but Space Ninja exists in the game. Barrel exists in the game. All these are cards. Fireworks Zombie, they all already exist in the game, and they don't break it. In fact, it's kind of a bit of a too much of a high maintenance deck. So, actually, if anything, it probably wouldn't be very powerful, that synergy. But anyway, on its own, it's just powerful, and it's another trigger for Necrotic Necromancer. Also, I have a very, again, I don't usually have a very good idea of what these should look like. Like, I have a vague idea, but I don't usually think this is exactly what it should look like. But I do have one for this one as well. This should look like a little wind-up robot, like, a little wind-up robot toy, but obviously a zombie. And when it, that's, like, kind of shaky and jilts a bit. And when it gets destroyed, it should shoot springs out everywhere. I would love to see that in animation. Anyway, this one is a bit more powerful, so, I'm going to try to justify this. So, earlier I had a bit of a rant in the last episode about how the game should be more about trying to build yourself up than knock your opponent down. You should only be thinking about knocking your opponent down if they're about to do something that will knock you down. Obviously, to win the game, you've got to knock your opponent down at some point. I understand that, and I see, like, again, I'm not completely against the idea of attacking your opponent. I'm just saying that, like, I prefer decks where you have to plan the attack than decks where you just slap down something that will attack them straight away. I wanted to make a card that's like Con Man, but instead of it being a ridiculous 1-drop for aggro and tempo, it's a ridiculous 1-drop for a more slow ramp or control deck. So this is basically the slow version of Con Man. Brainy, super rare, so it's another super rare 1 cost. Science Zombie, 1/1/1. Bullseye, another Bullseye card. When played, conjure a Science card. When destroyed, you get +1 brains for the rest of the game. So this is both a card draw, a very light card draw, but a card draw card and a ramp card. Now, you may think, well, doesn't this just replace Cosmic Scientist? I mean, Cosmic Scientist has the extra 1 health, but also costs the extra 1 brain, so why would you ever use Cosmic Scientist after this? Well, I have 2 things to say about that. I do think you've got a point, but at the same time, consider this. First of all, the Science card you conjure with Egghead will not get Bullseye, and sometimes that Bullseye is very significant. If you get a Zombot from like Cosmic Scientist, sometimes they can just block the 9 damage if they get lucky, and the Bullseye is really, really very important for a card like that. Or Gadget Scientist is a good one to get Bullseye on, because that means you can instantly get two guaranteed damage if you play it in an empty lane, and if they have 2 health left, that's a pretty big deal. But if they have a full block meter and you don't have Bullseye, like if you conjure it from here, it wouldn't save you. Now, obviously, that only applies in, this is only really helpful in Misha. I'm back. No, in niche situations, I understand that, but I would say that overall, it's still fine. I mean, you could still certainly use Codling Scientist. There are still situations where it's effective. And I understand this is basically better, but this is also super rare. The other one's rare. I know that's only one rarity up, but as I said many times, there is a big gap between rare and super rare. I don't feel like the game devs seem to completely realize because how big it is. Because as soon as it gets above rare, you're not guaranteed to get at least one per pack. So whether you get one, it's kind of like putting something behind a paywall. You probably only have a few super rares in your collection if you haven't been playing for a long time, and you probably won't get many more unless you play for a very long time. Like if you have one super rare, you got your eyes set on. Unless you're a lucky person, you probably won't get it unless you play the game for a very long time or spend money to get it. If it's a rare card that you really want, you're guaranteed to get a rare every pack. So the chances of you not getting that, if you just play the game for a bit without spending any money, are quite low. And even if you don't get it, the craft cost is 4 times lower, so it's a lot easier to get. Anyway, so so I feel like the higher rarity also justifies it being more powerful. I am against cards that are factually more powerful, but this one isn't factually more powerful. It's just basically kind of more powerful, which I think is fine. I have rambled on about that. I shouldn't have done that. I'm definitely not gonna spend too long on this one. Anyway, on this episode, like I'm definitely gonna have enough to talk about. Anyway, Cannibal Cadaver, beastly uncommon monster zombie. I might upgrade this to rare. I don't know why I put this uncommon. I guess I wanted this to be accessible. This is a weird card. When played, destroy a zombie and get +1/+1. So you have to sacrifice a zombie to get this. Now you might be thinking, oh, but +1/+1 isn't worth destroying a zombie for. I don't want. I mean, a 3/3/6 is pretty cool and all, but unless you destroy a 1/1, that's a decrease in value, and you can only get an increase in value if you eat a 0/1. So why would you want to do that? Bearing in mind there aren't many 0/1s you could even play. Well, this is the upside. When destroyed, it has at least 3 attack, which it can't get unless you do the when played ability, or you buff it afterwards, which would require you to spend extra brains. Get +1 brains for the rest of the game. So basically, it's a free cryo brain when it gets destroyed, if it got the buff, or if you buffed it afterwards. But you probably would have had to spend more brains to give it a buff afterwards than if you just let it eat a 1-cost zombie you probably have put down already, and it probably isn't dead yet. Anyway, you might be thinking, oh, well, this isn't Beastly. Why are you giving it ramp? Beastly's underpowered. Okay. Let's give Beastly a little bit of ramp. I know technically it doesn't belong in Beastly, but 1, it's not major ramp. 2, this thing has 6 health, and the earliest you can play it, unless you've got more ramp or some way to discount it, is turn 3. So I don't think this is exactly going to be a card where you get some crazy, like early game rushes with expensive cards. It's going to take a long time for you to get this bonus, and by the time you get it, it's going to be a little bit insignificant. So I don't think it's going to be a massive problem. And besides, technically Bullseye should only be in Brainy and Guardian, and yet we have Astro Shroom and we have Conman, and we have just loads of cards like that. So yeah, clearly that rule isn't a solid rule that if something is introduced in one class, it cannot go to another class. So yeah, it's just a general rule. Then we've got Nasty Surprise, which I don't think this would be a very meta card, but I think it'd be one of those cards that would be in some decks. But like not loads of decks. Nasty Surprise, Beastly, Uncommon, Barrel Zombie, 1/03. When played, copy a zombie's when destroyed ability. So there aren't that many things that would make this like ridiculous. Like a lot of them are just gonna be, ooh, do this much damage or stuff like that. But there are a few things that could be actually quite significant. It's also going to be good for card draw. There are a lot of... Oh, you know one thing you could do with this, which is actually quite funny. Again, remember, you do have to play the zombie before you can use this ability. It has to be on the board. So you would have to wait until you got one on the board. But you could play an Octo and then play this. And you would get... When this gets destroyed, you would get a second Octo. So that would be pretty funny. But yeah, there's a lot of little things you could do with this. But again, it's probably not going to be a really big deal. But that's why it's uncommon. It should have a lower amount of health. I can see your point on that. If its ability is when it gets destroyed and it's a 1 cost. But I want to give it a high amount of health because I thought it'd be a nice idea to make this a good buff target. And making this a 1 cost that has 3 health to start means that it's a decent buff target, not a crazily good one. But also it's a good way to defend yourself as well. Then there's just a mini card that I think would be really fun to see in the game, even though I don't think it'd be like massively meta or anything. Present. Brainy event card, Barrel Zombie, 1/01. When destroyed, draw a card or conjure 2 event cards. Obviously, I feel like most people would agree that conjuring is overall worse than drawing because you're not getting something from your deck, so you don't know what it is. Unless you're unless you're a newer player who doesn't have as many cards that are in the game, it is basically always better to draw a card. So yeah, it's more value to draw the card, but it's kind of fun to draw the event card. I was debating, should I make it 2 event cards or 1 card from your deck? And eventually I just decided random from one or the other. I don't think. I mean, it creates some more RNG. The thing is, RNG is a difficult thing because it makes the game more fun, but it makes the game less fair. So the more RNG that's in the game, the more fun it is. If the game had no RNG, the game would be very boring and repetitive. But if it had loads of RNG, there would be absolutely no fairness to it. It would just be complete, well, I lost. I don't know why I lost. I did really, really well. I was really, really smart about things, but then they suddenly got this legendary minion out of nowhere for 1. Stuff like that could happen. So this is a card that adds RNG into the game, but in a way that is very, not harmful. You can't really break the game with this RNG, but it's surprising, which makes it fun. And finally, I'll try and do this one fast. I've got enough time for one more, I think. Ghost of Christmas Presents. This is another Beastly card, which feels like it should be in Brainy, but it's another When Destroyed card, and also I don't mind giving Beastly more card draw. Beastly event, Barrel Monster Zombie, 4/4/3. When destroyed, summon presents here and next door. So you can get a lot of presents from this, which would all conjure you cards when destroyed. But it is hard to get that many presents, because that means on turn 4, you've got to have 3 lanes in a row, all free, and then get this destroyed. Have a plant, and they're probably not going to destroy it for you, so you're probably going to have a plant with at least 3 attack there to destroy it for you. It's going to be a bit difficult. But anyway, I'm not really sure how this should look, but I just had an idea. Just make this look like a haunting zombie, but just with a big, Christmassy looking robe on and loads of ghost presents. But anyway, I'm going to end this video here before I run out of time. Bye.